Okay, we've come straight to the tracker because I want to get this a quick peek before we roll over to the other bits. You can see here it's going to roll over the 12 o'clock position in a minute, but Maiden's been parked, doing 1.4 knots. Spirit of Helsinki has been not going fast, 4.7, but I think they're just about to get into it. And Outlaw, they slowed right up to 2.8 knots. They sailed into this no man's land, and also Tapio slowing down. 3.6, but Penduic up here, they haven't rolled over yet. They've been doing 10 knots. They've slipped onto it, and we'll talk more about that later on. Translator, they're into it, and also the Spirit of Keep, they're doing 9 knots. So, yeah, it's all happening. I just wanted to give you a quick peek at that. And Triana is dramatically catching up to Maiden, who's been parked for a bit, so 6.5. The scales are sort of tipping in favour of Triana for overall over all 4 legs. So it's all happening, and I just wanted to get that peak before it swapped over. So now I'll come back here. Some of you will have missed all that because you're just signing on now. We've only got 8 people, but in the replay, you will get the lot. So there you go. And yeah, it's just 2 o'clock now here in the Sable d'Olonne. Not a bad day. Going to be warm. It's going to be maybe 30 degrees. They're talking about this weekend before we head over to the UK. And I just had lunch with a guy called Joel Hakimo. And what's the connection with that? So Joel is here to pick up his Golden Globe race boat. But Joel's father is a guy by the name of Harry Hakimo, who's apparently into politics in Finland. The family's from Finland. And back in 1986, Harry Hakimo was sailing. No, I'll go back to 1981 in the Whitbread race. Harry Hakimo sailed with Tapio Lehtinen on Scotbank of Finland on a Baltic 51 in the Whitbread race. Okay, so from there, after having sailed in the Whitbread, Harry decided he'd have a crack at the BOC Challenge, which was the first ever single-handed race after the original Golden Globe race, and that was the second edition of that one. Okay, so Harry was sailing in the 86 BOC with Jean-Luc Vandenheede in the 86 BOC. And I was the Sydney race chairman then for the BOC, and Sir Robert Knox Johnson was the overall race chairman. So I met them all then. It was all good fun. You know, it was fantastic. I always remember Harry and his Swan, because he had this Swan 51 that he was racing called Belmont Finland, and it was completely different than like Jean-Luc had this long, skinny 44 footer or something, super light, super fast, boom. And Harry, being Finnish, is in a Norta Swan 51, which seemed really strange. But he did pretty well. He came third. Jean-Luc came second. So anyway, but moving right along. So now we've got Joel, his son, Harry's son, who was born when Harry Hakimo arrived in Punta l'Est in the Whitbread race of 86 or 88 or something. I forget now, because Harry went on to become a very famous Whitbread sailor. He ended up skipping Maxis, had Maxi yachts there and all that sort of stuff. Did 3 editions of the Whitbread. And so then the funny connection then is I go down to see Joel, and who's there helping him with his boat? He's just literally flowing in, and he's got 2 days to prepare his Rustler 36 to fly home. So he's got two guys there helping him, and it's both guys from Spirit of Helsinki. So one of them had done a couple of legs on Spirit of Helsinki. The other guy was excellent electrician and so on, involved with Spirit of Helsinki. So it's all these connections. Anyway, they're sailing back to Finland, but in Finland they've got half a metre of ice in the harbour, and they're about to leave here in 30 degrees temperature sailing up to Finland. So they got a bit of ice to melt before they can actually get home. Anyway, I digress. I forget any fancy tweets, anything? No?
Triana need to ration their food.
Oh, Triana's running out of food, we think. So check out the tweets. This leg is taking a lot longer than everyone expected. Again, it happened on the first leg going down through the Atlantic. It's just taking like forever. And so they've gone on to 1 meal a day now, Triana, because they've probably done the numbers, and they're probably not likely to arrive for the next couple of weeks, maybe. So they're rationing their food. We're still not sure what went on with Penduic yesterday. It's my intuition. I'm sensing something happened on board because they slowed right up for about 8 hours when there was a good solid trade wind and they're doing 4 knots. Now, it may have been a wind hole, but I sense something happened, and I'm sure they won't talk about it, but who knows? They didn't go fast, but they're certainly going fast right now. So let's go over to the tracker now and see what the latest positions are doing, and we'll see how it's going. So quick peek at Penduic. 10.1 knots. They're going faster, so they're onto it. We actually gave Penduic a weather alert last night. There is some big winds coming for them, up to 50, 55 knots. So they're about to get a shake up, and they'll be aware of what's happening because they can actually get their weatherfaxes now. That's been happening since getting past the equator and so on. So the weatherfaxes are their biggest and best form of forecasting on all the boats that have got their fax working. And it's this little number here. It's coming across with a front, quite a nasty front. So the forecast wind is only going up to 32 knots, but because it was a violent front and this is the first one for a while, we decided to give them a weather advice. So it's going to peak gusting up to about 50, 55 knots, 4 to 5 meter seas. And then it'll swing around to the west and slowly die off. But they're going to cop some big weather for about 6 to 8 hours later on tonight, I think it is. We'll have a look at that in a minute. And what's happening here? Quick peek, 6.5. So Helsinki's through. Maiden 0.7. So they're not moving. They'll be stuck there for at least another 12 hours, which is 12 hours for Triana to get up there. And she's doing 5.9, but we'll run out shortly. That was quick sneak peek. We'll start off down the pack. And people will be complaining that I'm talking too fast, probably. But it's fun to watch. There's some real action going on. So Explorer, still on 5.4. They probably should be doing 7.5, but they're having issues with their reefing system. As you know, they smashed the aluminium foil extrusion that goes up the forestay, so it's not connected to the drum anymore, and they've secured it with rope and duct tape. But they're at risk of spinning it out again, so they have to have rolls in their genoa, and that is not the best for the shape of the sail, and they don't want to push it, so they're doing 5.5, and they're probably cracked off a bit as well. They're not sailing as high as they should, but that'll go on until they get some following breezes, maybe up by the Azores. So only managed to do 89 mile day in the trades, and they've got 3,284 miles to go. So end of the month or beginning of next month, we think, for an ETA. So Sterner has been doing pretty well, getting a bit softer. So they've slowed up a little bit, 6.4 knots, and they managed a 121 mile day. And so you can see they're driving up into the soft stuff. White Shadow, 5.3 knots, already getting softer, 122 mile day. And Triana bolted ahead, but they are looking as if they are probably going to start slowing down. 139 mile day, doing 5.9 knots, having 1 meal a day now to make sure they've got enough food to get back to cows on the Isle of Wight. And Galliano is secure. They've already hit this band, so doing 2.5 on a 63 nautical mile day. So they'd be a bit frustrated with that. They probably can see this on their Weatherfax, but it'll just look like 2 big, huge open isobars, one down here and one up there with nothing in between. So not so good. Avrika's still moving, 5.3, 142 mile day. So not so bad. Outlaw stuck in the middle of it, going nowhere, 69 mile day. Maiden stuck, good and proper. Super frustrating if they knew what was happening, because they've got Triana catching up to them, and Triana now has about 3-day lead on Maiden for the whole race. So in other words, I'll check it again in a minute, but going into this, they're about 3 days ahead of Maiden on IRC handicap. So assuming all things stay the same and there's no major breakdowns or bits and pieces, it's pretty challenging for Maiden to try and recover from that deficit, but let's wait and see. It's not over yet. They did a 36 mile day, so not fast at all on that one. Spirit of Helsinki, 70 mile day and 6.5. So they'll be happy to be there because that means they're into this system now. And let's look at the distance behind. So Penduic is 1,700 nautical miles to the finish. Spirit of Helsinki is 2,077, so 377 miles behind. Even in a line on a situation, there is a weather issue coming up in about 4 or 5 days where they could get a break. One of them will get an advantage and one will get a disadvantage, but it's going to be hard to catch up 350 miles in about 7 or 8 days. That's like 40 miles a day. So to get in front, either Penduic's got to lose 20 miles a day and Spirit of Helsinki would have to gain 20 miles a day, about 40 miles a day. That could be enough then to maybe get up alongside them. But that's a big ask because we're running out of time now to make it happen. Neptune, 3.2 knots. You can see here, it's just a little bit soft. So 3.2, but they did reasonably well, 117 miles in the last 24 hours. And translated 9.1. They're now chasing. So they've got 1,900 miles to go on 1,700. So they're 200 miles behind. Now, to use the same analogy, and this is where it'll count for line honours on League 4, they're going to have to do 200 miles in 8 days. So that'd be 25 miles a day. So that's, let's wait and see. That's putting some pressure on. So anyway, and L'Esprit de Keep 9.2 and Penduic's 10.1. So not impossible, but yeah, at least she's under threat. Penduic's under threat. Got 2 boats here breathing down their neck, waiting for something to happen. And L'Esprit de Keep managed a 195-mile day, so not too bad. So L'Esprit de Keep is still looking good, doing really well on this leg. And what's going to happen here? The weather is crazy. I've been watching it before I came on here. Penduic now is pretty much open slather. If they can keep the speed up and crack a couple of 240-mile days, she will pass through one system and just rocket into the UK. There it is there. So just about on the same map. But it's certainly an open book now to get all the way through. They'll cut the corner a bit. They won't be worried about going up to the Azores and across, I don't think, anyway. They'll just beeline it straight down the line, and the weather's crazy for that. So first, before we go there, we'll forget about the trade wind stuff here because that's pretty obvious. It's only Explorer, really. We'll first have a look at the big picture and push that through a couple of days. Here we go. So there's cows. You can see there's any number of low pressure systems here. One center there, there's one center there, and this is, I don't know what you call this because you got the breeze coming off that way. Down this way, it's nothing. It's just nothing. It's just an area of no wind. But here, you've absolutely got an Azores high trying to take shape, and that's going to progress a little bit, but nothing happening up so high. It's all down south. So let's just quickly push through this for 2 days and see what happens. So there we go, about 12 hours. You can see that heavier weather coming through for Penduic there. That's where I gave them the weather alert. It won't affect Translated and L'Esprit de Keep. They'll still have solid breezes, but forecast winds only in the 25, 28 and gusting into the 40s. Whereas Penduic was, forecast winds sort of 32, 33, gusting 50, 55 for quite a lot. But it's all from the right direction, so it's not going to slow them up. It's just going to make a bit of a water flying around. It's only water and wind, no matter how bad it is. So that's all happening in the next 12 hours or so, 12, 14 hours. And then you've got a big, close to a west norwesterly. That'll just drive them up. Big winds on the beam. It'll be wet. But if you saw what's happening there, back here, the breeze is slowly coming back. So this is now 24 hours out. So there we are there. So that's what we've got. So those that are parked will start moving again because the big winds have come down. So I would think Maiden's going to be stuck there for another 8 hours or so, 8 maybe. Probably only about 8 hours. And then they start to move and start catching up. So in the next reports, you'll see them underway and then they're into it. But they're currently 177. So they're to 300 and something miles behind. So going to be kind of interesting. So that's day 1. Then pushing through to day 2. You can see this high coming across now. and I'll do this in a larger scale in a minute, but you can see the highs now starting to take shape. So it's creating headwinds. Now, that's not going to be good for the back end here, but by the time we get there, Penjuic and probably even Translated and the Spirit of Keep are going to be up here. They'll be getting it on the beam and still keep riding hard. The others, and a dividing line, I say, is going to be down here at probably Spirit of Helsinki. They'll either get it on the nose and have to pay off, or they'll just get through. So I can enlarge on that when I come up to bigger scale. I'll estimate their speed forward. But you can see that's going to sweep across the rest of the fleet again. This is where Penjuic clears out. It's what I was referring to the other day. Everyone's going to be left behind in their wake, and who's going to get up into this lot? Probably, certainly, Translated, the Spirit of Keep, probably Neptune, and maybe, just maybe, you'll see Spirit of Helsinki as well. Anyway, this is 2 days and a bit ahead. So I'm going to bring this back now and do the same thing, but a larger scale, so you can just see the impacts here for things going forward. So you can watch your favourite boat and see what happens. So you can see the breeze there over Maiden. It starts to fill in. That's in the next 8 hours. So Tapio's going to have some headwinds here. They'll tack, but at least they've got wind to move. Helsinki's off. Maiden is off. This is by midnight tonight. So Maiden's off. So yeah, another 10 hours or something. And then Outlaw should start to move as well. The others will be going a bit slow, but they've already compressed and caught up quite a lot. So there's the big winds just went over Penjuic. It's that front that's got the 55 knots in it. It's going to be quite vicious, I think. And then we're on to the 5th now. So next day, so that's 24 hours. Now in 24 hours, you can figure on Penjuic being 240 miles ahead. It'll be about there. And then the two down here, they're going to be about here. So they've got all favourable stuff. Neptune's probably going to be up around there somewhere, still favourable. Spirit of Helsinki is going to be up here somewhere as well, still favourable. Maiden's just in it. And the others will be coming up to this band there. So just come back and do one more day of that. The 5th, we come through to the 6th. So there's breeze all the way through. Here's all the breeze. The problem is it's dead on the nose. So the others will be way ahead, but the others will have it on the nose and they'll have to start tacking. They want to decide where they go. So that'll slow them up as well. Yeah. But certainly the lead group, whoever cops onto that, they're away. And the others are going to be stuck here. So that goes through to the 7th. All right. In the meantime, Stern catching up here, catching up to White Shadow and so on. There's going to be a little bit of compression, and Explorer just carrying along as usual. So that's all I can tell you there. Line honours, pretty straightforward. Penjuic, 150 miles, or nearly nearly 200 miles ahead of the Spirit of Keep. And then Translated on top of the Spirit of Keep as well. And then Spirit of Helsinki a little bit further back than that, another 100 miles, 200 miles back from that. So then Neptune, Maiden, Outlaw, and so on, Evrika. Then we go to IRC on this leg, and it's, what do we got here? Hold on. Okay, so IRC, Translated, they're holding that with a pretty solid lead from the Spirit of Keep. So we've got 48 days, 49 days, so a day and a bit. That's going to stay that way for a while, I think. So Translated might be looking pretty good, pretty healthy for a few days to come. Penjuic is 2 days behind Translated. So Translated looking good for this leg. Neptune, then another day behind that. Then Outlaw, Triana, Evrika, Maiden way down the back here. So not doing too well at the moment. Then Galliana with Secure, but there's only minutes between those, only 10 minutes between Galliana and Maiden, or near enough, 10 minutes. Spirit of Helsinki's down there as well. And so it goes. I think you're all busting to know what's happening in the... Just to explain that, we will now cut across to the rankings overall for IRC. Here we go. We don't need to worry about the map. We just go for the leaderboard. Here we have it, Triana, 181 days and 18 hours based on their current speed of VMG of 4.9, and that's since the start of the race. It's their average since the start of the race, which is a fair indication. And Maiden is now 85 days and 11 hours, so nearly 4 days behind. And that's going to be a hard nut to crack unless something dramatic happens. Behind that is Spirit of Helsinki, 2 days behind that. And then another day behind that is Penjuic. So Penjuic are lifting their game, that's for sure. And Galliano would secure hours behind that as well. And then it goes down the line to Outlaw, the Spirit of Keep, and so on. So Triana is still holding a commanding position for IRC overall. And Maiden have got their work cut out for them. But you never know. There is, actually, I should come back here. I can get rid of that. I'll just show you the weather going forward. And I'll show you where this next opportunity of winners and losers is actually going to appear. About 4 days out, there's another big hole developing. If I go back here, put that there. Okay, only trying to catch up. So if we come through to about the 7th, okay, so by then the boats are coming up here, and you can see there's some funny stuff opening up there. I'm just going to click it through one at a time, and I'll show you where the next big hole comes. This is it coming across here. It's going to go over the fleet, right? And that's another. This is you've got basically two highs. You've got one here and one there, right? And they're both converging to the east at the same time, and they're starting to join up, right? And that's where, at that point, just here, it's coming over the fleet, right? Because you can imagine the fleet streaming along up here, heading towards England. Now, I did a rough analysis of this, looking at Penjuic's times, and if she can manage 240 miles a day, Penjuic's going to be in here somewhere, just as this center comes across. But if she doesn't manage 240 miles a day and gets caught down here, you can see what's going to happen. It's going to get us going right over the top of the fleet, right? So potentially, unless she gets a move on, she's going to be stuck right there. And the others, who knows what's happening. So it's a highlight, something to watch out for, but lots of things can happen. This is 4 or 5 days in advance. And the first thing that can happen is the forecast can change, but you can see that's the next challenge there. And it can create some opportunities again and change the game, slow them down. But if Penjuic got across to that, now they're sitting in this situation here, and they're just riding it all the way through to, they're just riding this breed all the way through to England. And my ETA has them there. If she gets onto this, it's going to be about the 11th. So everywhere you're looking at there, look at this breeze pushing them up towards Cows. There's the 9th. Okay, so there's the 10th. I mean, it's hard to believe that this could be the forecast in 6 days, but if it is, it's just like this sleigh ride all the way, and they'll be very fast indeed. And about that stage, some of the others might start to slow down because it's all changing fast behind them. But I would say there's a very low, because you can imagine now this is on the 11th, and I put Penjuic in there in the morning of the 11th sometime, or afternoon of the 11th. The other fleet back here coming behind them, they're going to slow down again. But it'd be highly unusual for the forecast to hold all the way through that far ahead. There's the 12th, that's 8 days away. It's going to change, so watch this space. Okay, that's enough of that. I'll come and say good day to a few people. See who's here, if anyone's got any questions. Rob, Rathleen, seeing the storm system, Olivia and her sisters laying in wait. Yeah, there's some big stuff out there at the moment, but I think we'll get away with it. So g'day Joe, Judy, Stefan. Oh, yes, Stefan. Simon. Can you tell us a bit more about how to load the food and beverage? How to load the food and beverage on this leg? How do you decide how much food? Sorry for the silly questions. Well, it's not hard, and that's the first part. So, and there's some reasons that Triana might be running out of food. You look at the total distance you've got to sail. You look at your estimated speed. Work out the total time you think you're at sea. And most people were thinking, some were thinking about 40 days. Some a bit quicker than that because they're bigger, faster boats. And you make your estimate. And then if it's, say, 40 days, you work out how much food you want for each person every day and make these 40 bundles, and then you pack them up in bags and have weekly bags or something like that. There's no particular scientific way. It's a bit just everyone does it a different way. Personally, when I'm on expedition or something like this, I actually just buy a truckload of food, and then I have a big floor space somewhere, and I'll make a weekly pile. So I'll make 7 days a week, and I'll put it all the gear down in the 7 days of the week, and then you actually just pull it out from 7-day pile, make 7 little piles out of your 7-day pile as well, and then you look, is that enough food for a week? For a day rather, and depending on how many people you got on your boat. So that's how it happens. And in Triana's case, they would be working on minimum weight. They want to save weight as much as they can, and so they will have cut it back a fair bit. And so that's how one of the things that happens. It gets light. Same on Maiden. Actually, they're using mostly freeze-dried food, and to my great surprise, they don't have big water tanks. In fact, that's an issue for the next race, not for Maiden, but we're making sure that the boats are able to carry physically enough water as per the notice of race, or they can carry it in containers. Fluids are the same. Just calculate the amount of fluids, look at how much fruit juice you have, how many soft drinks, how many cans of beer, depending on if your boat's dry or not. So it's just a calculation. So it's not a silly question, by the way. It's no such thing as a silly question. So thanks, Roberto. G'day, Christine, Warren, hi. G'day, Mike, Stuart. G'day, Stuart. Hi from Emsworth. On been away, but following the track, it's getting exciting. Yeah, it's not over yet, because that second weather system could shake up a few things. Never underestimate Maiden. I can say exactly the same thing. Never underestimate the power of a woman. So, do you have to subscribe to Weatherfax? No, Weatherfax is free. We've changed it for the next race. We got a lot of flack. In fact, there was a huge issue. I'll bring it up now because it'll come up at the end of the race. There was a big mutiny from quite a few of the entrants refusing to agree with the idea of the weather forecasting and saying Weatherfax is bloody stupid. This is crazy. The race is unsafe. Blah blah blah. And so it was their choice to decide to come or not. In the end, they did, just days before the start. And part of that was because we insisted that everyone have a Weatherfax, because we know they're quite valuable. They thought, you've got to have Weatherfax all the way around the world. We never said that. We just said Weatherfax, because everyone knows you're going to get it for halfway around the world. And it's an aid to your weather forecasting, not your actual primary weather forecasting, which is the GMDSS system, which is defined for the entire world, and it's via your radio and all those sorts of issues. So Weatherfax is really handy, and they would be using them quite effectively right now. And so it's free. It's a signal that comes across via your radio, and you have a receiver which automatically tunes into the best frequency and prints out your actual map on a thermal paper, like the old fax machines and so on, and you rip it off and you have a look. You can do a modern version of that if you're on a cruising boat. You just buy a black box for your Weatherfax. It receives the signal, and it will send that signal to your computer, and you actually get the isobaric map or the satellite cloud images and so on, which all comes via the Weatherfax system on your computer. So it's not as good as grid files and things like that, but it's still quite a worthwhile thing. So at the moment, this is one of the areas of the world in the North Atlantic where you get reasonably good coverage, and it's important to work out where those Azores highs are and all those other things, so you can get on the right side of them or keep moving. So all kind of fun. Okay, so to see what they get clear on the boats, there's a good picture about that on the last press release we just did. It's a fantastic photo from Translated, I think, the red one. I love that photo. It tells a story. G'day, Ron. Yeah, it'd be good to see you. Yes, you'll probably have to stay for a few days, but Cowes is a great place. If you're coming across, Cowes is pretty cool, so it's not a bad place to hang out waiting for some boats. Like and subscribe. If you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. It's still only running at about a third of the people that are watching on Facebook, but that's cool. Okay, that's it. Ada, oh, hello, I'm looking for a lift from London to Southampton on April the 9th if someone is driving this direction. So Ada's looking for a lift to come on down. Ada will be doing the coverage. Jane will be on camera. Ada and I will do the commentary for all the boats coming in. So we'll have a good French coverage as well. And we'll be doing interviews with them also the day after they arrive. So look forward to that. Okay, I think that's about it. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again tomorrow. And remember, Ada's looking for a lift.